Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay Wharton. I am the Extended Campus and Distance Services Librarian here at FSU Libraries. Right now, I am in Stroger Library on the Tallahassee campus, and I hope all of you are having a wonderful evening in Valencia. Today you're going to watch this video and I'm going to talk about library resources and services that are available to you while you're studying abroad, and also talk about why they're important to use, not only during your time when you're in Valencia, but when you come back to Tallahassee as well. First, we have two representatives from the Academic Center for Excellence who are going to talk to you some about study skills. After the video, we're going to do a Skype call and we're going to have some discussion and you'll be able to ask questions, so make sure and write down any if you come across them as you watch. I hope you enjoy the video and I'll talk to you soon.
Hello, I'm Dr. Patricia Golay from the Academic Center for Excellence, and I'm here with
Holly Hunt from the Academic Center for Excellence.
And we are here to talk to you today about how to be academically successful. So, one of the first things we want to have you do is to know yourself. What type of learner are you? Are you a visual learner? Do you learn best by reading, observing, or seeing things? You remember what you read or see. Graphs and diagrams are easy for you to understand. You remember faces and places, and you tend to recall information by picturing it in your minds. In college, a visual learner is going to find out it's relatively easy to read a pie chart in a business class or perceive differences between artists' painting styles. Are you an oral or auditory learner? Do you learn best by hearing the information? You like to learn by listening. You are good at listening to lectures, audio materials, and learning through discussion. You generally understand, comprehend, and remember oral instructions. You remember words to songs and can recall conversations in detail by hearing them in your minds. In college, an oral learner will remember lecture material in a variety of classes and may be skilled at memorizing things like music or lines from a theatrical production. Are you a reading-writing learner? You comprehend and remember what you read, and you often enjoy writing. Reading-writing learners prefer information displayed as words and emphasize text-based input and output in all forms. College classes have traditionally been geared to the reading-writing learning style. These learners can take notes in most classes and will benefit from reading them as a method for study. Are you a kinesthetic learner, one who learns by doing? You are involved in learning by doing things with your hands and your sense of touch. You prefer to touch the material as a way of learning, and you need hands-on kinds of activities. Hands-on activities and real-life experiences help you remember. You also learn better when you are able to move around while learning. Kinesthetic learners prefer to be active, and it is important for you to be actively involved for you to remember. College classes like science labs, acting, or sports teach to the strengths of the kinesthetic learner. Next, it is important to plan your study time. Using a weekly study schedule can help make this easy. Using a model like the one shown is a great way to keep track and stay on task. To complete, you simply block out class times, block out regular commitments, block out your basics such as sleep time, cooking, eating, doing laundry, or going to the gym. Now, schedule study time in the spaces that are left. Lastly, remember to identify the best environment for you to study. This could be your room, the library, the park, or at a coffee shop. To summarize, here are some things to remember. Know your learning style. This will help you maximize your learning. Make a study schedule and make this your regular study routine. Consistency is best. Organize your materials for your study session. Find a space that is free from distractions. Getting your studying done during the week gives you more free time on the weekends to pop over to Portugal.
Now that we have learned some helpful tips and strategies about learning styles and time management, let's talk more about your approach to college learning. I think it's important to first reflect on the differences between high school and college learning. In high school, you probably had a variety of grading opportunities from homework, quizzes, and tests. These opportunities were frequent, maybe only a week or two apart. If one grade didn't go so well or you missed a quiz, You could do better next time, and your final grade would still be strong. You probably also had an instructor providing exam reviews or study guides that you could review on your own at home. In college, you will more than likely have large gaps of time between your tests. 4, 5, or sometimes 6 weeks worth of material will be on one test that you have to learn on your own time and at your own pace. You may only have 3 or 4 grades in the class, so each grade has a considerable amount of weight in your final grade. It is possible that you get exam reviews or study guides in college, but more times than not, you don't, and it's all about how you learn and put in the time to learn the material. Bottom line, you have more responsibility for your learning, and more specifically, managing your time and staying on top of what you are learning each week, even though you may not have tests for many weeks. In addition to those differences, many students come from a high school learning environment where they were successful by using basic memorization strategies and studying shortly before an exam. Memorization is an important strategy in college too, but when it comes to college level learning, you will not only need to apply new learning strategies beyond basic memorization, but you also need a new approach to learning. The good news is that with a little planning and an open mind to a new way of learning, you will be able to master your college classes and continue on with your academic success. This new approach to learning can best be captured by a model we call the study cycle. During the next few minutes, we are going to talk through this model and how it is applied. The first step in the cycle is to preview what you will be learning in class before you go. When you are listening to the lecture and taking notes, you want to be familiar with what is being discussed so it is easier to take notes. You will not be an expert by any means, but if you have some familiarity with the topic, it will be easier to process the material and take better notes. To preview, follow these 3 steps. First, review your syllabus to identify textbook chapters or notes or articles, any type of reading material to review before you go to class. Scan your textbook's introduction, chapter headings, keywords, any diagrams, and end of the chapter summary to help have an idea of what to expect in the chapter. Read through notes and/or any PowerPoints the teacher provides online ahead of time. The next step is to read and take notes from the textbook chapter and in class. This first means to thoroughly read your textbook chapter. In the preview phase, you may just be skimming, but in this step, you want to read every word in detail. At this time, you can take notes in the textbook, say with a highlighter or underlining or writing in the margins, or you may separately take them on another sheet of paper. Use the chapter objectives, usually found in the first page or 2, and the end of chapter summary or review questions to guide your own comprehension of the material. It makes better use of your time when you're reading through the topics. Record any confusing topics, anything that you have to read more than once or things that still seem unclear, and listen for or ask for clarification in class when you attend. Take notes during the lecture when you're present in class and hearing from the instructor. And then after class, synthesize your own lecture notes and the notes you took in the textbook to compare. The next step of the study cycle is to organize and review. This is an important step because you're helping yourself retain the information of what you've been reading and learning in the classroom. If you did not have any of your points clarified or only half of your points clarified, it's important to talk about and find support for any information that's still unclear. It's also important to review your lecture notes within 24 hours. Much like the discussion earlier of high school and college learning being different, if you have many weeks of material to review and to learn, it's best to start learning it right after class. Don't wait for weeks and weeks later to go over the material. This is also a great time to start creating charts, diagrams, flashcards, timelines, all types of strategies and material to help you retain what you need to know. During this step, you also want to pick 1 day a week to review notes that you have been learning after class within 24 hours and to look back at previous weeks. So as each week passes, you're always taking a quick peek at what you've learned before and never forgetting the material that was happening earlier in the semester. The 4th step of the study cycle is the self-test. So the biggest difference between the 3rd step and the 4th step is that you're testing what you know and don't know by removing the material that you've been looking over and reviewing. It's very important to add this step into your study routine because we have a tendency as students to just look over material and reread notes and look at the material to see, oh, I know it sounds good, it sounds familiar. During this step, you want to remove it from your sight to test what is familiar and that you feel comfortable with and things that are still confusing or that you may not know quickly. This can be done by simply removing the notes in front of you, talking about it out loud. You may work with a partner or a friend or a classmate to kind of teach or tutor. You can create practice questions or test questions that might be something you would see on the exam. Study groups are always a great idea. You can talk through the material. And at any point that you can apply it to maybe a more real-world situation where you've already experienced or know about, that helps you to understand and comprehend better. The fifth step is the test. We have been working for this moment for many weeks. So you've put in a lot of good effort and time, and now it's time to take the test. We always suggest plenty of rest so you're well rested and ready to go. We want you to arrive early and with all necessary materials. Maybe you need a calculator. Bring an extra pen or pencil. Be ready to go when you get to the test. When you start the test, take deep breaths and work slowly and demonstrate the material that you've been working so hard to learn. During the test, use appropriate test-taking strategies. Maybe you want to work through the test and answer the easiest ones first so you know you can get those points. Maybe you want to glance through the test to see if there's some only worth a few points or a big essay question at the end that's worth 20. Use those test-taking tips and strategies to manage your time and reduce test anxiety. Now, the final step of the study cycle is to prepare. It's very easy for us to say, whew, I'm so glad that the test is over and I'll think about the next test later. But it's very important shortly after the test, especially after you get your grade, that you stop and reflect and see how well did you do. This can simply be what kind of grade did you get and which ones did you miss, but it also needs to be the bigger picture of the study cycle in general. Maybe you didn't put as much time into studying as that you wanted, or you haven't found the best study environment. If that's something that you need to adjust or change, now's the time to do it because you're about to start the study cycle over with the next few weeks leading into the second or third or the upcoming exams. If you're concerned about a course grade, maybe it was incorrect or you don't feel like that it was something that was accurate, please see your professor or TA or instructor. And for the most part, just make sure that you're adjusting your time and routine so you can be as successful as possible the next go around.
Hopefully, the tips you have heard today will help you achieve academic success.
Visit the ACE website for more tools and tips.
So now I'm going to talk to you about library services and resources, such as databases, journal articles, ebooks, and more. These sources are going to be really important to you during your time here at Florida State in producing good and credible work. I'm sure many of you have written papers and done projects before, and that's great. That means you have a good starting point for the research process. But you're really going to need to change the way you research. Many of the sites that you find using Google are no longer going to be applicable to use on your reference list. I hope that most of you know Wikipedia can be a good starting point, but it can never be used on your reference list as anyone can go in and change it. So let's start today talking about credible websites and how to evaluate web sources. There may be times when you'll want to use popular web search engines like Google. Because web sources can be created by anyone and therefore are riskier in terms of their credibility and authority, they should always be evaluated according to the following criteria. Who is the author of this site? It's important to identify the author of a website and to become familiar with the author's qualifications. Be skeptical of any web page that does not identify an author. If you are going to depend on this website as a source of information, you need to determine the author's credentials as well as the purpose and rationale for posting the site in the first place. Always ask yourself whether the organization sponsoring a particular site is a known, reliable, and suitable site for the document. A research center, for example, a college or university, or a government office. How accurate and objective is the site? If you are going to cite information found on a website, it's important to know whether you can trust the accuracy of the facts under discussion in a particular document. A website with data that cannot be confirmed should never be trusted, no matter how perfect it might seem for your purposes. It's also important to understand the website's point of view or bias. How clear are its purposes? Sites that have academic or educational content are often nonprofit sites and generally follow certain rules. Scholarship relies upon context and usually builds on precedent. So go ask yourself these questions. Do you have the sense that the author is positioning himself or herself within an ongoing and serious discussion? Does the site demonstrate knowledge of related research? And does the author cite current and reliable sources? If footnotes, bibliographies, and hypertext links are used, do they add authority, credibility, or depth to the argument or only seem to do so? What is the site's currency and coverage? Since information on the web is so easily posted, it's especially important to make sure that the sources you consult are timely. Ask yourself these questions. Is the creation date of the document or of its most recent revision listed? Is the information up to date or are the resources outdated? These are important questions to consider if you're going to use web material for your research. The great thing about library resources is most of the material has already been evaluated for you. So in the end, it's going to save you time when you're doing your research, so you don't have to consider all those factors every time you look at a new article. Today I'm going to talk about how to use the library website and navigate through some of our most popular features. We'll start out on the main FSU Libraries homepage, which can be found at lib.fsu.edu. As you can see, there's a lot of options on our front page that are going to help you get started with your research. We have quick links up here for graduate students, faculty, distance learners, and visitors. Under that is our I Need To menu, which helps you find an article, books, databases. This is going to be the menu you use a lot when you're looking for resources. We have today's library hours, including the study center's hours. Our one search box, which we'll talk about in a minute and practice searching that. And then our useful Ask a Librarian right here. Now this is a service I really want you guys to get familiar with. Anytime Strozier Library is open, which is 24 hours, 5 days a week, we only close early on Friday and Saturday nights. There is either a librarian or a staff member who is here to answer your questions, whether it be about your research, if you're having trouble finding something, anything at all. You can come in this box and you can chat and you can ask any sort of questions. This is a great resource for especially if you don't have a librarian on your campus and you need to talk to somebody about research. I would totally suggest you come here and get used to using this. Sometimes navigating the library homepage can be pretty intimidating. There's a lot of information here. Finding what you need can sometimes be difficult. So one of the resources we created here at FSU is something called Research Guides. If you go to the Research tab up here at the top, you'll see Research Guide is the third option. These guides were created by your FSU librarians, your subject specialists, on particular topics, subjects, even particular courses, and will help you find the information you're looking for, as we kind of consider it a one-stop shop for information. So if I was in an art class looking for art research, I could click on any of these art guides that would be helpful to me. As you can see right here, you have your contact, which would be your subject specialist. That's a person who is most familiar with art in that topic. We have key resources listed, so Oxford Art Online and other databases which we've used, we suggest, and you can see several tabs at the top. Find articles and databases, find books and dissertations, list of museums, reference resources, and more. Our LibGuides are a great place for you to get started on your research. They're going to give you an idea of the topic and kind of give you an overview of everything we have based on the subject you're looking for. I'm back at the FSU Library's front page. And I want to talk a little bit about the one search box, which is located right here in the middle of our front page. This is a great place to start your research. While it doesn't search all of our resources and materials, it searches a lot of them. So it's going to look at books, journals, so our physical things we have in-house, as well as some of the ebooks and resources we have online. So if I'm looking for maybe a book review or the book East of Eden, and then I click search, it will bring me to the login page. In order to access library resources from abroad or anywhere off campus, you'll need to sign in using your Blackboard username and password. The reason you need to sign in is because all of these resources are only available to FSU students, faculty, and staff, so not everyone has access to everything you have access to. Now you can see the results that came up for my search for East of Eden. The very first one is the East of Eden book by John Steinbeck, and I can see that's available at Stroger Library. It also gives me other options of books we have in the library, as well as journal articles. I can refine my search here using the search limiters on the left side of the screen. I can just look for full text online, our peer review material, or just the library catalog. And here under content type, you can get an idea of how many different types of resources are available in this list. Subject terms is another great place to get ideas for keywords, which is going to be really useful as you continue your search thinking about different keywords. And I can even change the publication date if I'm looking for material that's maybe more recent. As you can see, the one search brings you lots of results. Sometimes it's going to be really helpful, but we're going to move on and talk a little bit about using databases, which I believe is going to be the best way to complete your research. We're back at the main FSU Libraries homepage, and now we're going to spend some time talking about databases. Using our databases is going to be probably your main contact with FSU Libraries throughout your time at the university. Databases include tons of information from academic journals, ebooks, newspapers, and many different sources. To locate our databases, use the I Need To menu and click on the Find a Database link. This is going to offer you three options for finding a database. The first one is searching by title or description, but you may want to wait until you're a little more familiar and you know exactly what database you want to search for. Option 2 allows you to browse our list of suggested databases. We're going to be focusing on this list during our searching today. And option 3 allows you to search our A to Z list of databases. We're going to start out today using Academic Search Complete. Academic Search Complete is a great database to start at for any of your research projects. It's a very comprehensive and broad database, so it works across disciplines and for a lot of different classes. Before we do our search, let's look at the search options in the screen that comes up. So you can see right here under Search Modes and Expanders, we've selected Boolean or phrase searching, and that's the way we're going to leave it. Boolean searching allows you to use and, or not to either expand or narrow your search. So using or will allow you to search two search terms at a time, while using and makes it so that each search term has to be available in the result. If we scroll down a little, we'll be able to see the search limiters. We should always click full text, as we only want full text results coming up in our search. And then we're also going to select scholarly or peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed information is some of the best information available to you, and it's going to become more and more important as you go through the research process. As you get later in your studies, this is probably the only type of information you'll be able to use to back up what you're saying in your research papers and projects. To be submitted to a peer-reviewed journal, a group of experts has to read the paper and agree that it's important and valid for the field. So this gives information authority, and it's the most trusted information available. Now let's complete our first search. My research question today is, how does mental illness affect creativity? So for here, I'm going to put mental illness. And as you can see, Academic Search Complete already gives me some suggested other keywords using or and and. Or is going to make it so it would search mental illness or mental health. Using diverse keywords is always going to improve your search. And then for here, I'll put creativity. As you can see, I used the and. So now we'll search both of these terms and limit to full text and peer-reviewed journals. Academic Search Complete makes it easy for you to browse through your results. As you can see, the title and different subjects, which is great to look at if you need additional keywords, as well as the author, where it was published, what year, volume, issue, and more. So I can see for this third result, is there an inverted U relationship between creativity and psychopathology? And I think that sounds really useful, so I'll click on it. Here I can see all the bibliographic information. I can see the author, what journal it was published in, along with additional subject terms. If you click on these terms, it will actually pull up a new search, and it provides me the abstract. The abstract makes reading journal articles a little bit easier, as it provides a summary of the article. So if you're ever browsing to see if articles will be useful for your topic, use the abstract to make those decisions. Many of the articles are going to be available PDF full text. There are many tools available in Academic Search Complete. I can print the article, email it to myself, or save it, or it will even provide me a permalink. These options are very important because you can't just copy and paste this link and it will open up somewhere else. You can use this citation and it will give you a computer-generated citation for the article, but that always needs to be double-checked. We'll talk a little bit more about citations later. All these tools and options make Academic Search Complete a great place for your searching. I'm back to the Find a Database page. Take some time to get to know our other suggested databases. Access World News is a great place to go look for newspapers and get information about current events. Business Source Complete is a business database and contains company information. JSTOR is very useful for humanities, especially in English courses. There's hundreds of other databases for you to explore, and hopefully you'll get to know some very well during your time here at Florida State. The one other database I'm going to show you today is actually a little bit different than the rest of these, and it's Google Scholar. Maybe some of you are familiar with Google Scholar. Even though you could get there just through your web browser, we're going to use the Find a Database page because that will link it up with FSU libraries and allow you to access information through Google Scholar that's located in FSU libraries. So we'll click the link just like we would any other database, and then it will take us right to Google Scholar. Google Scholar works a little bit different than databases, is that it just uses keyword searching. So I'm going to use the same keywords I used before in the database. I'll put mental illness in quotes so it knows to use the phrase, and then I'll put creativity. One of the reasons I really like Google Scholar is because it allows you to see how research is part of a conversation, and that's how you should think about it too. So here we can see the title of an article, when it was published and where it was published, but under it we can see how many times it's been cited. This article has been cited 763 times, and here's a book that's been cited 219 times. Any article or book or resources that's been used a lot, you can think about that as being a very important part of the conversation, and you probably want to get to know that resource so you can become part of that research conversation as well. This looks like a very interesting article to me, so I'll click at the Find It at FSU link right next to it. This is going to take me back into the FSU Libraries database. Google Scholar is another great way to find different databases or journals that you may not have thought of when you first started doing your research. You may think you won't have access to FSU Library's large book collection until you get back to campus, but actually we offer you the option to send the book even overseas. Under the Research tab at the top of the screen, you'll see the fourth option as Interlibrary Loan. Interlibrary Loan is a service that we usually use to request books from other colleges, universities, and public libraries to be brought here on campus for students and faculty. But you can use this service to request Florida State University books to be sent to overseas study centers. Just because you're studying abroad doesn't mean that you're on your own. FSU librarians are here to help you, and I want that to be one thing you really remember from this video today. If you ever need help with your research, citations, anything else, know a librarian is a great person to come to help you when you're in need. Don't forget about the handy Ask a Librarian box right here on the front page of our libraries. You can always come in and chat with one of us. I'm on this service myself a lot. There are other ways of setting up an appointment with a librarian even when you're off campus. Under the Research tab, you'll see an option to schedule a consultation. Consultations are like appointments with librarians, where you can talk about your research, a project, a particular paper, or any other issue you're having. You would just fill out this form, and there's even an option for study abroad student. You could request a librarian, describe your need, and even choose a particular date and time. Make sure and say this is a remote consultation so the librarian will know that this needs to be done over Skype or Google Hangout or even over the phone. If you go back to the Research tab, you'll see there's also an option for subject librarians. I mentioned this when we talked about LibGuide before, that each librarian here has a subject specialty. You can choose your subject from the drop-down list and find the librarian for your subject area who knows about your classes, who knows about your faculty, and will really be able to help you with your research. Before I sign off today, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our citation management tools. Citing your resources is a really important part of the research process, and Florida State University takes plagiarism very seriously. You can even get kicked out of school. So make sure and take the time to learn how to cite properly and always cite your resources. FSU Libraries is here to make that process a little bit easier. Under the I Need To menu on the left side of the screen, you'll see there's an option to cite a resource. These tools allow you to store and organize citations and files and really keep track of your research. We also provide links to our citation research guide and some online full-text citation manuals. If you scroll down, there's 3 tools we offer. The first one is RefWorks. RefWorks is a great tool to use because it works really well with our databases and allows a really easy export to RefWorks option. Here I am back in my article in Academic Search Complete. Remember these tools over here on the right side? The export will allow an option to direct export to RefWorks. If I select that and then save, it will ask me to log in. If you haven't created an account already, you'll use your FSU email. Here I can see that the import was completed, and if I go to View Last Imported Folder, I can make sure that that article is there. This makes it extremely easy to use and even helps me create my bibliographies, even though these always need to be double checked. Two other tools that we discuss is Zotero, which is a free open source citation manager which you can download onto your own machine, and the free version of EndNote. Each of these tools works a little bit different, but they all have the same goal of helping keep your citations straight and making sure you don't plagiarize. I would highly suggest getting used to using one of these tools early at your time in Florida State. Then it becomes easy and it makes just citing your references and the end of the research process really smooth. Well, that's my video. Thanks for watching. I hope that everyone learned something. I know it was a lot of information, but always feel like you can come and talk to us. We're librarians and we're here to help you. We're here to make your time at Florida State easier for you. I'm Lindsay Warden. I'm the Extended Campus and Distance Services Librarian, and I would be happy if every single one of you contacted me, had a question. Always feel like I can be a point of contact for you. So I look forward to your questions.